growing up in elementary school, the teachers always ask you like, "Oh, write down your 5-year goal and your 10-year goal," right? And, people ask me that sometimes, like, "Hey, where do you wanna be in 10 years from now?" But, like, outside of our real estate deals that we know we're gonna hold for 10 years, I'm like, "Dude, I'm not even thinking more than 12 months out because, like, what I think I want 5 years from now is gonna be different when I get there. And if it's not different, that means that I'm not growing." So, like, if you would ask me 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I was an air traffic controller. I didn't own any investment real estate. So if you would ask me 5 years ago what I wanted or if I thought I'd be here, like, I'd have thought I was crazy. But also, if I had a 5-year goal back then and I was like, "I'm just gonna stick to this thing," I wouldn't be where I'm at today because I wouldn't have been open to the growth, and I wouldn't have been open to those opportunities because I would have been blinded by them. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Reports. Today, I am very, very excited. Actually, gotta back up a second before I bring in our guest today. I actually spent 12 hours in the chair last night at the tattoo shop getting this whole piece done. And I thought it was going to be like a 4-hour thing. And so I get to tattoo shop at 5. And we had planned out the art piece like a little bit before. And I'm thinking we'll jump in at 5, go, and I'll be out of there by 10 o'clock. No big deal. And turns out we ended up going till 5:15 in the morning. I
Whoa.
pulled an all-nighter at the tattoo shop because we got halfway done, and I was like, "I don't wanna come back." But, so I'm like, "Let's just run this thing. Let's get it done." So it was definitely an interesting night, but got it all done, so excited for that. But I'm very excited for our guest today because I got a mindset coach who, works with a lot of bigger names. I got my man, Jason Drees. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rich. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this conversation right now. I've never had a mindset coach on, and I love talking mindset. As I mentioned before we started recording, I was an air traffic controller for the FA for like 11 years, and I didn't get into entrepreneurship, real estate investing until 5 years ago. This is an entire new world for me, and so I've done a lot of this in trial and error. I have a business coach, and I'm around a lot of cool people. I'm in a bunch of mastermind communities as well, but I'm wrapped around a lot of great people, and I get to interview people that are smarter than me on the podcast, which is great, right? And that's been a big token to the growth so far. But I realize there's levels to the game, and in order to get to that next level, it all starts with a mindset and it ends with the mindset. It's freaking crazy, man.
Mindset's everything. It's
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
yeah.
It's always there. Always there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, talk a little bit about the mindset when folks get into business, they get into entrepreneurship, or maybe it's just a side hustle, right? Talk a little bit about mindset and the belief, because for me, if I believe something and I believe I'm going to actually accomplish it, I believe it's already happened in my mind, it freaking happens. Like, and I'm a big believer in like burning the boats, not having a backup plan, and just going all in. I think a lot of businesses fail because not because they run out of money. They fail because the entrepreneur gives up, and a lot of that starts with a mindset. So, talk a little bit about how powerful the mindset is for, new entrepreneur getting into that new business venture.
So mindset is important for everything, right? It's the way to think about it, and it's also a hard concept to explain. It's actually a very strange experience being an expert in something that's very hard to explain what it is. But what mindset is like your brain, like my brain is a computer, it catalogs things, right? So however many years you've been alive, it's got where you were, when you went to school, how you were parented, where you worked, the music, movies, all that stuff, right? And that basically creates your expectations of how life is, right? And when we're aiming at targets, what I call known targets, things we know how to do, our experience is an asset. When we're aiming at things we don't know how to do, starting a new business, something like that, where we're in the unknown, your mindset is usually the biggest limiting factor in the process.
That's interesting. So, and I think whenever people get into something new, myself included, when I get into real estate investing, a lot of folks told me, it's too risky. I cashed out my 401k. I quit my job after I did a few deals. And each step along the way was scary because a lot of folks told me it was too risky. They outlined all the risks that could happen. And yeah, all those risks are real. So put some weight on it. But, I realized a lot of people, and I see this today, a lot of people, they have this idea or they want to go buy a piece of real estate or they want to start that business and they go to their friends and family for advice. And those friends and family never owned a piece of real estate. They never started a business before. And those folks talk them out of doing it. And a lot of that's mindset, right?
It is, right? And becoming an entrepreneur it's a solo journey. And it's a lonely journey as well. Because what often happens, and this is what happens for me and happens to a lot of people, is we start doing something, we get inspired to play bigger. We start playing bigger. We're like, oh my God, I made a success. Oh my God, I made $1. Maybe I can replace my income. And what usually happens is that first win we get is exciting. So we go to the people around us and said, "Oh my God, look, I made $1." And everybody's like, "What are you talking about? That's such a risk. The safest thing you can do is have a job." And you're like,
Mhm.
so then what happens is we're looking for that support and acknowledgement, but we don't get it because that's not how life works, right? Because you don't get that support and acknowledgement is when you get it is when you don't need it anymore, right? Because my process of becoming a coach was like, I'm leaving a decent paying tech job. I'm going to work for Tony Robbins. Yeah, they pay $60 an hour. How am I going to support my family? I don't know. But I couldn't do it. So people just, I've had times where my brother-in-law called me and told me he was going to raise my kids because I'm such a failure. You know, we run food assistance from the state at one point, but as you said, I never stopped, right? That's the thing. So I never stopped and I pushed through. And that's what allowed me to move through that phase where you're not getting the support you want because most people around you haven't started a business. So they're not going to be able to give you the input that's supportive.
Mhm. And I feel like as you grow, as an entrepreneur, it gets lonelier as you grow because less and less people can relate to you and relate to the problems that you're going through and all that sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons I have a business coach, is because, a lot of the stuff that I go through weekly, we're putting out a lot of fires, a lot of decisions need to be made. And there's not a ton of people that can truly relate to what that's like. But my business coach, I jump on with them once a week for an hour and we walk through scenarios and situations that are currently going on within the business, and it just helps me reframe and get some mental clarity.
Yeah. Having a coach is one of like the 3 resources you need on your team.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the top performers at every level, whether it's professional sports or acting, music, all these big names out there, they all have coaches at every level. And so the idea that you would get into business and entrepreneurship and not have a coach is like you're not putting yourself in the best position to win. You know, talk a little bit about the thought process when people have an idea or a target that they want to achieve. I think most folks, they have an idea or a target, and then they get into this big planning phase. And because the plan's never going to be perfect, a lot of those folks never start. Can you elaborate on that and the thought process that differs between most folks and the folks out there that are successful?
So this comes up. This is one of the basic concepts of success, basic components of success, what I call getting in the game, right? It's almost like, because I've had a lot of clients there that are like standing on the sideline trying to analyze getting into the game, right? It's almost like you're standing on the sideline on a basketball court, ready to go in the game. You want to go play. And then the person you're going to sub for just gets an elbow in their face and the nose is broken, right? So you get to this place where it's very easy to start analyzing everything and trying to create success, especially people who are typically more detail oriented, like high C disc profiles like that. They're very analytical systems builders. They'll get stuck because they're perfectionists, right? And especially in investing or being an entrepreneur, the reason you get stuck there is because you cannot control the outcome. You can't control the outcome because the outcome of success of an investment or a business involves other people, and we can't control other people. So people get so the way to get past that is a belief that you just naturally adopted, which was I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to figure out how, right? Where most people like try to figure out how, and then they decide to do it.
Yes.
So that's what I call, and I first got this from Tony Robbins, which was decide, commit, figure it out how, basically, instead of decide, plan, commit, because then you get stuck, right?
Yeah, I love that. I always feel like whenever I come up with a new idea now, I'm like, let's freaking implement it right away. Let's take action. And the team's always like, oh well, how are we going to get there? How do we know what we're going to resources and all this stuff. I'm like, guys, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. Let's start. Let's get going. And then next thing you know, like we're figuring it out and shit's happening because we decided to just take action. And I think when you give yourself self a deadline to achieve something or figure something out, you figure it out. I've never been in a situation in my life to where I have not figured it out. And the more I grow, the more stickier situations I find myself in, but I always figure out a way to get out. And each one of those reps gives me more and more confidence. I think like, when people talk about partnerships within business, the top 2 things that I look for is one, are they a good human being? Are they aligned with the brand and the person that you want to be putting out there to the universe? How do they talk to people? Are they respectful and all that sort of thing? That's number 1. And then number 2 is what is their level of risk tolerance? And is that aligned with your level of risk tolerance? Because if a lot in business and real estate investing is you got to have some sort of level of risk tolerance and you got to be okay with some unknown. Like you're not going to have all the answers because once you have all the answers, for an opportunity, it's no longer an opportunity. The opportunity is gone,
True.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
I've been in partnerships in the past, I bought a lot of real estate with my first 2 partners, and it was a very tough decision, but I decided almost 2 years ago, that I was no longer going to reach my full potential under that current structure, and it was a very tough decision, but I ultimately decided to go my separate way, and one of the reasons was actually, the main reason was because we had a much different level of risk tolerance. I'm a very confident person. I'm very confident that, push come to shove, like, we will figure out any situation, scenario that you put us through. We'll figure it out. We'll get it done. And, and being in a partnership like that, where it was like, it's 3 people, majority vote, I kind of felt like my ideas were never going to, be something that we could utilize because, it was kind of like I was kind of outnumbered, if you would. So it was a tough decision. I decided to go my own, but I will say this, Jason, me going on my own just in the last year and in 9 months, I've had more growth in this last year and 9 months than I ever did the prior 37 years of my life, you know? But anyways, I think those are number 1 and 2 for me, but, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, like that working with people that you align with is an important thing, right? And integrity and values is the number one thing, right? Risk tolerance is also a very key factors in, like, one of the primary clients we help are people trying to turn their side hustle into a primary hustle. And one of the pieces, like one of the 10 requirements of that is you got to have a risk tolerance to make it happen, right? So matching to the right type of people is a fantastic way. And I can see from talking to you that your mindset has driven you to this level of success. And I also want to expand that. So, because the mindset that most people think of is, like Jocko Williams, Ed Milet, tough mindset, right? So that's part of it, right? That's the first step. I'm in the game. I'm not going to stop. That's the first mindset, right? The second way is to expand that is when you learn to get an aligned mindset with the target, right? Now you'll get there eventually with being in the game and never stopping, but you'll go faster and make bigger jumps when you learn how to align with the target and how to master confidence in the unknown, because that's the biggest challenge right now, because confidence is a sign of alignment, right? And like if you want to create alignment with the target, making a decision like I'm going to hit this target and I'm not going to stop until I do, that's a decision, which I call an aligned frame. And so you're in the frequency where the result will come to, as opposed to I'm 50% sure I can do this, and then I won't get the answer. So you always want to start in an aligned frame as best you can. And then from that aligned frame, it creates the aligned mindset and creates the aligned action.
I love that. So let's talk about, being aligned with the target. So, let's just say, for example, you got a target, and let's just say you want to buy X amount of real estate in the next 12 months. How do you determine if you are truly aligned with that target?
Really simple. It's how certain you are. 100% certain is alignment. 99% certain is misaligned.
Just 100% certain that the outcome is going to
Yeah.
occur?
Yes. Yeah. And and most entrepreneurs, because I've been an entrepreneur and for 15 years now, I've been through 5 companies, and I've had times where I worked for years and it didn't work. And my biggest breakthrough in this coaching methodology that I developed, alignment coaching, was really understanding the premise that hard work doesn't create success. Alignment with success creates success. Hard work simply gives you more opportunities to get into alignment with success. So the average entrepreneur is working towards a target, and their confidence and certainty is going to vary between 70 and 99 or 100%, right? The simple way to think about that is if you are 80% certain you can hit the target, that's like having the address in your car's GPS be 80% right.
Mhm.
You may get there,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be the fastest route.
How do you balance setting the appropriate target then? Because some targets you might be in 100% alignment with because you feel 100% that it's going to occur and you're going to accomplish it, because it might be an easier target. But I think in order to push yourself, maybe you want to set a more aggressive target, and maybe we don't hit it, but we're gonna try everything we can to get there. So how do you know the right level of target to set?
Well, I typically will recommend people have a known target,
Okay.
which is something they can build a plan to as like the baseline. And then a stretch. My thing is impossible targets, because that's my book, Do the Impossible. So, and there's a 3-question process to create those goals, because and a great question to ask yourself if you're aiming at the right target is, if success was guaranteed and you couldn't fail, what would you do? Because what happens for most people is that when we start aiming at targets that are out of our comfort zone, so the average person may grow 3 to 5% every year, even though it's possible to 5 or 10x every year, right? But if you sit there and you have a goal that's 10x, the emotional contrast is so big, most people can't manage it. and they create so much uncertainty. So they aim at a level of their comfort zone. So that's why the average person is making the same income decade after decade. When the reality is you can align with any target once you learn how to change your mindset. And what I've figured out how to do faster than anybody else is how to change core mindset in minutes, so that you want to aim at an impossible target, because by aiming at an impossible target, it brings up all the holes in your game. It brings up all your soft spots,
Mm.
and it brings them up fast. And that way we can coach you through those misalignments that are running. Otherwise, when you aim at that smaller target, that misalignment's still there. You just can't feel it. So you're operating at 80% of your potential. So basically the model I kind of go by is, how big do I aim? And I'm like, there's no limit, right? Now, am I going to make $1 billion tomorrow? Like, you got to be aligned with the target.
Something that is, that's going to give you some sort of chance of achieving it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with the
If I
impossible,
say, hey, I'm gonna go become an NBA player next year, the likelihood that happens is 0%.
but if that really was something for you to be, you'd find a way, right? Like if it really was supposed to be an NBA starting in 38 years old, then you would find a breakthrough to make it happen.
If it was supposed to be.
If it was supposed to be.
Right.
Right.
But that's not supposed to be.
But you wouldn't be inspired to do it if it wasn't supposed
That's
to
true.
be.
Okay, I like that. Okay.
So the questions you want to ask yourself when you're setting a goal is, number one, what do you want? Write down the answer. Okay. Then in relation to the same target, okay, what's possible? Write that down. And then the third one is, what is impossible, completely impossible, but would be fun to do anyway? Because the first question, what do you want, is based on past reference. The second question, what is possible, is based on external reference, what you see other people do. The third question, what is impossible, but would be fun to do anyway, is based on internal reference. And it's usually, when I ask clients this question, they kind of go silent. They say something that surprises them, and then they repeat it and get excited because it's literally an instinctive, intuitive target coming from them. And when you aim at those targets, like aiming at 10x targets and things like that, the average person isn't going to do. But when you're aligned with your intuitive version of that, that's where the magic comes, because that goal transforms you. Like you're talking about how much you transformed in the past year. The reason we aim at those goals, because it transforms us. And the faster you're open to growth, the faster you can grow. But most people aren't open to that much growth because they can't handle that much growth.
Yeah, man. It's crazy for me. I'm like, the more I get in this game, the more I get addicted to the game, the growth. And I'm always looking for that next level, the next, whatever I can do to get an edge to get to that next level. I'm like, I want it. Let's do it, And yeah, it's a powerful thing, and it's a real thing. I used to be like a little bit afraid of the growth because I just never was around it. I was never exposed to it, and I was always kind of operating from a scarcity mindset, in a fearful mindset, because that was just kind of my surroundings at the time. And, not to take any risk, play it safe and that sort of thing. And I had to like really train my mindset to get out of that into this, which is like the abundance mindset. And now I'm like, there's so many decisions that need to be made every week. And I'm like, let's just make a decision and go. And if it's the wrong decision, it's okay. We'll pivot. But the idea is we're just making decisions because the more decisions we make, the faster we grow.
Well, yeah, that's a polar opposite shift you made from air traffic controller, precision, no mistakes, to being an entrepreneur. There couldn't be a bigger contrast.
Right. No, I know. Exactly. So, I make mistakes every single week, but that's how we grow.
But that's what it is to be human.
Yeah,
You're supposed to.
absolutely. And so, I tell the team all the time, like, guys, it's not a big deal if we make a mistake. Like, it's not a big deal. We pivot and we get better, and that's it.
And that's a clear example of why you've had the success you've had over the past few years. One of the other my 10 things that people struggle with in turning their side hustle into the full-time hustle is, getting the staff to do the work, right? Because they don't give the staff the runway to fail. If you don't give the staff the runway to learn and fail and process, you're never going to grow. And it's always going to be you doing everything. And I can see from the work you're doing, you provide that space for them to learn and fail. And that's why the business keeps growing.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, back to this. So what do you want? What is possible? What is impossible? And so from this, the idea would be to come up with something that's impossible that like would be fun to do. And then that's your ultimate target.
Well, if you want, we can ask these questions to you right now. If you want, like if you're setting a goal, but you get to choose the goal, right? So it's a good exercise to pick the right target. So, because a lot of times people will just pick the target and it's usually, what do I want? Right. So we want to go through, what do I want? We want to write it down. We want to go through what is possible. And that'll give you answers based on external reference. So if you see other people like you doing higher, you'll get a bigger answer there. If you're already beyond external reference, you won't get an answer there, right? If you go to what is impossible, that's like, what's your potential is. And usually there's some excitement there. So a lot of times, I'd say probably 90% of the time, the person, when the client, when they discover that impossible target, they start aiming at it. Now, that may not be the thing they eventually do, but that's the next journey of their path, is to be aimed at that level. And it starts to create the transformation. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's run through it then. I'm down to do that, but because it's an interesting time that I'm in because I'm not exactly clear on what this next level is for me. We just accomplished a target basically, and a year ago we started a boutique hotel fund. We have 4 hotels in it now, and we just bought 2 boutique hotels in the last like 4.5 months. And so I told the team, I said, hey, let's take a break from buying. Let's close out the fund with these 4 existing boutique hotels. Let's focus on operations. Let's focus on stabilizing these properties. We're doing, repositions with 2 of them. The other 2 already stabilized and cash flowing. And I'm like, let's focus on what's in front of us and let's get these things really humming so we can give us and our investors the best opportunity to have a nice refi in the highest possible appraised value when we go to refi to maximize our returns. And so we're just really focusing on that right now. And so we're going to take a break from buying for probably 6 months. And then, later, maybe Q4 this year, we'll gear up again. And so I don't know what that next thing kind of looks like, but I will say this, Jason. So the thing that kind of makes it a little bit, I guess, just congested in my mindset is there's a few different arms of the business. So, one is the property management arm, which really is a not-for-profit thing. We manage our own boutique hotels, we manage our own short-term rentals, and we also manage for third-party owners, very select few, but it's not for profit thing. We really just do it to give us full control of these assets. And then we have Summers Capital, which is our company to where we have all these passive investors. We have over 100 investors now, and they invest. We do all the work. We give them tax benefits and passive income. And then the third arm is the content. It's the podcast. It's the social media. So I mentioned before we started recording, we hired Parker, our content manager, a year ago, and it's been great. And so 3 weeks ago, we decided, let's double down on the content. Let's do more content. Let's get better at the content. And how do we get there? We need to hire a second content person. So we put out that job posting, and we were able to lock up yesterday the videographer of Venus Williams, professional tennis player, which is huge, right?
Congrats.
And so right time, right place. So he's going to be starting with us next week. And so now we're going to double down on a lot of the stuff and get a lot better. Now, that said, it's really 3 arms of the business. Oh, there's a 4th arm.
Okay, 4th arm. Yeah.
The 4th arm is our online education community. So we have a boutique hotel mastermind, and we're also in pre-launch right now for the 7-figure creator. Because I had a lot of people reaching out. They want to go to coffee, they want to go to lunch, and they want to ask me about what I did to build the brand so quickly and how to start a podcast and how to start building their audience so they can monetize it, right? Get more leads for their business, raise private capital for real estate, whatever it is. And so I was like, man, like I was spending so much time going to coffee with these folks. I'm like, why don't I just like start like a online community? And then that way we can help more people. So anyway, so it's the online communities, it's Summers Capital, it's the management company, and it's the brand and the podcast. So it's like basically 4 things, right? So it's a little bit congested. And so when I'm like, okay, what's this next level for me? I'm very clear on like what that is for like the content and stuff like that. The property management, like that's not something that we're really trying to scale. It's just like that grows as we buy more real estate. But with Summers Capital, that's like first and foremost. And for me, I'm like, dude, I don't know what the next level is because we have bought these 4 hotels, and now I got people like Tariq Al Musa reaching out. He wants to do a boutique hotel. He's like, I'll bring capital, I'll bring TV exposure. I got guys like Brian Malarkey on Top Chef. He's got all these really nice restaurants in San Diego. He's like, dude, let's do a boutique hotel. I'll do the food and beverage and you do the hotel. So I'm like, what's the next move? Do we do like a bigger hotel like that? I don't know what the target is. So how would you give someone like me some guidance on that?
Well, I would ask you, what do you want?
So I'll say this. I want to build a really big thing. So I want to build a really big thing, whether it's the podcast. I want to help a lot of people. I want to help a lot of investors. I want to buy a lot of real estate, and I want to build a really big thing. Podcast too.
Why did your voice get quieter just now?
I think
Did you
I'm
notice
just,
that?
yeah, I think it's me just trying to be a little bit humble.
And yeah, and that's why I picked up on that. I was like, so the next evolution is in the unknown, right? So you can't get it yet. So it's impossible to set goal setting in the unknown like 12 months in advance. It doesn't work. Because if you try to do, like, let's say you're trying to do that next level in 12 months, you're going to be kicking into your brain, which is your past references, and it's not going to work, right? So the way we get information from life on how to grow and expand in the unknown is we get breadcrumbs. We get one step at a time. So you really need to take, if you're looking for action steps, you could ask yourself, okay, if I'm going to create something really big in this next year, what's the most important thing I could do in the next 2 days? Because there's actually a process I run with clients, and you can actually see where their intuition kicks in. Because the best going into the unknown is really an intuitive journey, right? And what I would really encourage you to do is like that thing you said, say it again, say it again, say it again. And so what's actually happening is your new level of success is contradicting some of your old reference points in your mindset, right?
What do you mean by that?
So like you said, I feel I'm trying to be humble, like, cause it's, you weren't 100% aligned with that result.
Mm.
There's a reference in your mind that says, well, if I don't want to be, I don't want to be a braggart. I don't want to be greedy. You know, I'm going to be a good person. So there's contradictions in your mindset running. And that's the way everybody's mindset runs, right? Because our brain catalogs everything from the past. And anytime you set a new target, it's the secondary voice that comes in. I'm going to go do this. And then the second voice comes in, right? So to create alignment, and what I do specifically is I remove the second voice. So you want to start to become aware of those voices, because 5, 10 years ago, we weren't operating the same frequency of reality we are right now. So positive thinking was the way to go. But we don't want to do positive thinking, because positive thinking is ignoring the negative thoughts. We want to be aware of the negative thoughts, because that tells us we're out of alignment, so we can shift into a frame of alignment. And that's kind of how we start to play at that higher level, is to not construct the plan, construct the version of you that knows how. And what the way we do that with coaching is we start to, okay, well, right there was, when you said that, here's the next thing, I want to do something big. I don't know, how certain were you, or you could do it?
Well, and I'll tell you why I was uncertain. I'll tell you why I was uncertain, because I'm a big believer in like clearing the plate before you move on to the next thing. Right. And so, I want to really focus on what's in front of us, and that's stabilizing these 4 hotels, right? 2 of them we're repositioning right now. We're in middle of a big renovation up in Sonoma Coast. And so I want to, stabilize those, really drive the review averages, get those things cash flowing so we can, have a nice refi. And then, with our online communities, that's in front of us too. So got to take care of that. Got to grow. We're starting another one in the content space. So that's in front of us right now. So the idea of like buying another deal right now and like thinking about the next, it would distract me from what's currently in front of me. And that's why that's not in alignment right now, because I'm like, let's finish what's in front of us and stabilize it. Then we'll move on to that next thing. Does that make sense?
It does. And I would
Yeah.
challenge you on that.
Okay.
I would
let's hear
challenge
it.
you on that. I'd be like, if success was guaranteed and you couldn't fail, what would you do? Would you start the new thing?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I would, but I know my capacity is only so much at a time.
So there's the but, right? There's the
Yeah.
secondary thought, right?
Yes.
So the first thing is, if success was guaranteed, you do it. So what's actually happening right now is your model of success that you used to get here, you're now outgrowing that model, because the model of, I got to clear my plate of everything before they do the next thing, that was one of your components to success in the previous phase of your success journey. You're at the next level now, where you need to start having generals under you instead of you just being the general.
Mm.
That's the answer. And the first step to making that happen isn't to go start hiring. It's to do it in your mindset first. You hold that in your mindset. I am going to find a way to start growing this right now. And it's going to, and I'm not going to blow, I'm going to do it in a way that everything grows. That's an aligned frame. And that will start generate the thoughts, the ideas, the connections. Because I'm looking over here and I see this happens. Entrepreneurs, they become successful. And and Brandon Turner, I talk a lot, but he had the same thing with growing up in all these businesses. It's right. Then you have to have generals underneath you versus being the general, right?
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
say this though.
Yeah.
So October last year,
Yeah.
I promoted a team member to like COO, and I took a step back and I let her, everyone reported to her, and she kind of ran the show. And I focused on content and kind of being a visionary in what we're alluding to right now. And it was a mistake on my end. And maybe it's not a true representation of the true thing that needs to happen ultimately. But it's on me ultimately. It falls on me, and it was my fault. But the team was coming to me and they're like, we hate working for this person. We came here to work for you. And like, we don't like how this thing's being ran. This is not a good representation of our brand and all this. And so it ended up crumbling. And so I had to step back down. This person's no longer with us. And, that was a learning lesson for me that like, I felt like we're too early right now for me to like take a step back and kind of do that right now. Like, I feel like this is going to grow the quickest in the way that I want if I'm like kind of like a little bit more hands on right now. And yes, that's going to require more of my time, but like it's the culture that I want and it's like the vibe that I kind of want right now. Now, a year from now, 2 years from now, maybe not. But at least for the immediate future, I think I need to be like in this right now and like in like building this with my team.
So I would disagree with your assessment a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
I would say that it wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
It was a bad hire,
Yeah.
right? And finding someone to fill your shoes is very challenging to do, because what usually happens is we try to find somebody just like us, but there's only one you on the planet. So that never happens, right? Understanding whether you're a visionary or an artist or an entrepreneur or an integrator or the manager is hard to get at first. That's one of the skills you had to learn to really grow your business. Like I hired a CEO 3 months ago who was an amazing manager and integrator, because I'm a visionary and I can't integrate for crap, you know? So there is a way to do that, but it didn't work. But when I see people growing in the way they should and it doesn't work, like it's like, okay, you got to recover from that. But what can we learn from that? Maybe some coaching would have helped you get the right resource in there. A lot of times it's easy to hire somebody internally because we want it to work, even though they're not the right person. Right?
Yeah, that's
so,
good.
So you can absolutely maintain the culture, but bring in a resource who does it for you, because the way that this thing is going to grow is when you start focusing on tasks that are $5,000, $10,000 an hour and up. If it's below that, someone else should be doing it.
Yeah. And I do. I really do focus on the higher dollar tasks, but I do have a lot more of a pulse with the different departments within our business, and I do a lot more one-on-ones with the key leaders on our team. And I feel like at least for right now, I think this is good for me.
Well, that's if you're happy, that's all that matters.
Yeah,
Right?
I like it. I'm actually like, well, look, I'm sober right now. I'm not even drinking. Like I'm very clear, and I think for right now, like me kind of being hands-on, work building this with my team, kind of side by side. But I'm not doing the $20 an hour task by any means. I'm just a lot more hands-on with the vision and making sure things are being taken care of.
Yeah, because that was the lesson.
Yeah, it was a lesson. Yeah.
That culture is a key to your success.
Yes, it is.
It was.
It is.
And now you know.
Yeah. We don't have a corporate vibe here by any means. So it's not corporate at all. And I don't want a corporate vibe, but this other individual was trying to kind of make it corporate and all that. And the rest of the team did not like it at all. Yeah. So anyways, I don't know. So, obviously we're going to clear what's on our plate. And if we can, hit these specific hurdles within what's in front of us right now, I'll be a happy man. And then we'll look for that next kind of buying opportunity then. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of feels good to stabilize everything that you got.
Well,
right?
yeah.
Because then
Well,
it's
yeah.
like you push, you grow, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, like let's stabilize what we have and then let's move on. I don't know. That kind of feels good to me right now. But to your point, when I get there, then I'm gonna really have to get clear on like what is this next move?
And number one, if you're happy where you are, that's what matters, right? Just because someone else sees growth for you doesn't mean you have to do it. It's your life, it's your business. You get to do whatever way you want to, right? And I just when I'm coaching clients with that, I check in that point of view isn't based on a reaction or fear. Because if it's based on a reaction or fear, that implies avoiding the growth to solve it. So I pick up on those subconscious clues like that. So because when we start to remove and this is a short conversation right now, but because there's always a way to do the next thing. And my point is always like, because the way I understand mindset to work is I would encourage you to make sure that you're in the mindset that next level is already happening without doing anything. Because you can look at the situation and say, I'm going to balance out right now because that's what needs to stabilize. That's what I need to do 100%. And you could say, I'm going to grow. No, I'm not ready for the next level. You're shutting off that growth energetically. So you can say, I'm going to stabilize right now and the next level is happening. then your stabilization, your time's going here, but you're in the aligned frame for that next evolution to come in.
Yes. Right.
So like, for example, I didn't work out for like 10 years. And I realized, I'm turned 50 last year. I got to start
Congrats,
working
man.
out.
You look great.
Thank you. I started working out.
Yeah.
I've worked out 5 days a week for the past 10 months,
Mhm.
and
Good for you. You look great.
thank you. And for 2 months, for 2 months, I told myself I was working out before I started working out. I literally shifted my frame and I'm like, I work out 5 days a week. I do it every day. And then literally a month later, I was at an event talking with one of my team coaches. He went to the gym. I went with him and boom, it was just done. So there's a lot of power in holding the frequency of that future vision,
Mhm.
that alignment, so that life will bring it to you.
That's so good. Talk a little bit about frequency. What do you mean when you say like, high frequency, low frequency, all that? What do you mean by that?
So our bodies are made of atoms. Like I remember 7th grade science, and he's like, okay, our bodies are made of atoms, and an atom's like, looks like a little planet, right? A nucleus, an electron, right? And he's like, atoms are 99.9999% free space, which means the percentage of this universe that's actually solid is 0.0001%. And I'm like, wait, well, something's not making sense here. So I started to understand that we're all energy. There's also this law of attraction thing, right? And what I discovered, the process of called frame shifting, is this is where frequency comes into play, is that in 2019, Jason Drees Coaching was just me. At the end of that, I started working with Brandon Turner. I started getting more clients. Then I got on the Bigger Pockets podcast and the business exploded overnight. Like literally me to 7 employees in 30 days. And I'm doing a group coaching program called the Mindset Academy. I'm doing 4 hours a week while I'm coaching 65 coaching clients and I'm building an entire new company. Like I'm just so fried, but the money was rolling in because we 10x'd in that quarter. It was awesome.
By raising your prices too?
Actually, no, we didn't raise the price. It was
Really?
it's just the
Just more volume.
the mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically every day I'm like, don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. And I
Yeah.
was sitting here going, oh my God, I can only get done 10% of what needs to be done. And I'm sitting here going, I'm so overwhelmed. And then I had this thought process that said, okay, today was November 1st and I was completely overwhelmed. August 1st, I had it dialed in. Everything right before the podcast, everything was dialed in. But if I took Jason from 10 years ago and brought him to August 1st, he would have been completely overwhelmed. So that told me there was a Jason in the future that if I pull him here, he'd know what to do. And I started thinking about the Jason in the future, and all of a sudden the stress went away and my doubt went away. My confidence and my certainty went up. And what I didn't realize at the time is that's what a frame shift is. Holding the future version of you that does it shifts your frequency. And I did that, got out of stress, and I did it over and over again. And then when I figured out how to coach that, my clients' results have just been exploding over the past 2 or 3 years. So frequency is basically like you can be in a happy frequency, you can be in a sad frequency, right? And the way life actually works, if you can imagine a diagram, right? There's 3 circles. The big circle is frame, the middle circle is mindset, the inner circle is action. Now, our brains will say that action creates reality, right? But it actually doesn't. Reality creates your action, right? The frequency of you, your frame, creates the frequency of your thoughts, which is your thought pattern, which is your mindset, which creates your actions, right? What I figured out is instead of trying to solve life from finding the action, you simply move the frequency into alignment with the success, with the target. And when you move into an aligned frame, it then generates the mindset that's aligned, that has the thought on what to do. Automatic.
Can you elaborate on when you say reality creates the action?
Yes.
What do you mean exactly when you say that?
So the frequency of you creates the frequency of your thoughts, which is your mindset, right? The thoughts creates your actions, right? So you could be, if you're in a happy frequency, happy frame, happy mindset, happy action, sad frame, sad mindset, sad action. 90% certain entrepreneur frame, same mindset, action, right? So what often happens is we're getting very specific frequencies around success or the parts of the business where we're out of alignment there, and we're operating at 70 to 80% frequency. And we're trying to chase strategy by copying mentors instead of aligning with the target and pulling it in from the future version.
Yeah, that's so good.
Hey guys, real quick, I just wanted to personally thank you for listening to this podcast. It means the world to me. The only way this show grows is by word of mouth. If there's anyone in your circle that could benefit from this podcast, it would mean the world to me if you could share it with them via text or maybe on your Instagram story. And I'll be sure to keep an eye out on my Instagram for shares so I can reshare you on my Instagram story. Again, thank you so much for listening, and it means the world to me. Now back to the show.
So how would I identify what my future version might be, and then bring in that future version into a scenario today to be like, okay, how is that future version of me going to approach this situation?
Can you give me a real example of the future version you want to connect with?
Maybe just like what we just alluded to. We just went over that example of like, okay, I'm wanting to kind of clear my plate and stabilize what's in front of us right now. And then we'll move on to what the next thing is. Maybe how would that future version of myself, respond to that situation?
Well, we need to be more specific to that. So would you want the future version that knows what to do in this situation?
Yeah,
Okay. So can you get a sense of a future version of you tomorrow, next week, sometime in the future, who in this situation would know what to do?
it's hard to say
So
because I
yeah,
don't know because I don't know what the future version looks like. You know
well,
what I mean?
so
Yeah.
this is it's not vision. It's not a vision because vision comes from the mindset, right? Think of it like, you're sitting in the car and that person's looking at you at the red light. Like that's not using one of our five senses, right? So just think for a second, like defocus a bit. Say, can you get a sense of a future version of you who, if brought into this situation, would know what to do?
Yeah,
Can you sense it?
a little bit.
Okay. And could you sense a future version of you who understands this frame shifting process that I'm teaching you now more than you do now?
I could see it. Yeah,
Okay. Can you sense that frame in the room here with us?
somewhat.
Like, is it a direction? Can you see the direction?
It's still not clear though. I mean, hypothetically, yes, but I don't. It's not
Well,
clear.
you're trying to get the answer too fast.
Mm,
Okay.
okay.
So that's very common. And the reason why I asked if it's in the room with you, because 99% of the people I do this with, they can sense it. And if you watch all my videos, me going like this, it's because my frame is right here. And I think that's just one way our brain helps us focus on frequency. So what you want to do is get a sense again of that version of you tomorrow, next week, anytime in the future. We bring that Rich in here. He looks at this and goes, got it.
Got it. Okay.
So just put your attention on that version.
Okay.
Don't worry about the answer. You can't worry about the answer. That's the version. Now, if you hold it there, you can do this for 30 seconds or a minute, or you can do it again tomorrow, but you can frame shift, just sense it in a second. The answer will come when it's time to come. It may pop up instantly. It may have a process for you and it may lead you to that process. But that's what frame shifting is. Like, how did you feel in your body? Did you feel any different in your body?
I felt very calm. I felt very calm. I would say it's interesting because like all the things that we're currently doing, I feel, very confident about everything that we're currently doing. The unknown for me is because the growth it happens so quick. Like if you would ask me 2 years ago if I would be where I'm at today, I would have thought you were crazy. And then especially 4 years ago, 5 years ago, even a year ago, I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh. But because of that, like a year from now, so like if we're talking May of 2025, I don't even know where I'm going to be. You know, that's the kind of the crazy part. That's kind of what I was just thinking about when you said, your future self and all that. I'm like, whoa, I don't even know. I can't fathom. But that makes me excited.
Well, it is because that's a great place to be because you've executed on everything you know how. You're literally living in the unknown, which basically means you're open to life. You're open to opportunities.
Yes.
You're opening to discovery.
Yes.
Like, and what I really do is I help people get open, right? So, and while we want to have certainty, life, we don't control that much in life, right? We think we do, but we really don't, right? So the more certainty you can create in this space of unknown, the happier you'll be and the more successful you'll be.
That's so good. That's so good. And it's so true. Like it's freeing to be fluid and to be flexible with, your future and decision making and all that sort of thing. Obviously a lot of the stuff that we do in the real estate investing space, we buy these hotels and stuff, it's a 10-year projected timeline. And so we have to underwrite for that. But, outside of those specific deals, and how it pertains to the growth, generally speaking, from a more generalized level, that I'm very fluid with, For example, 12 months ago, we're like, let's start a boutique hotel community, and we did it, right? A year and a half ago, that was never in the cards, right? And so we started it. We ended up, building this thing and the folks and connections we've been able to make, but also like the last deal that we bought in Sonoma, we actually partnered with a couple folks in our mastermind. So like, that opportunity would never presented itself without it, right? That's one. This 7-figure creator, like that's something that literally was just an idea 2 weeks ago, and now we're already like implementing it. We're in pre-launch. We like to move fast here, and I think that's where the growth happens. When we have an idea, we're like, if it's a good idea, anyone from the team, I'm like, let's fucking do it, and then let's start now.
And you're continuing to get these breakthroughs and ideas because you're in alignment with them.
Mm.
And if I picked apart your mindset by asking what you believe, if we look at like a global level, I know 100% you believe you're going to grow, and you
Yo, yeah,
believe so,
without a doubt.
and successful. So at a macro level, it's going to happen. You just don't know how yet.
Yes.
That is the first step in creating alignment. So you have been creating and holding alignment with success at that global level, because the global or macro frame is what the law of attraction responds to. What happens to the average person or the entrepreneur that's struggling is they don't know what to do at the micro. Like this week, they don't know what to do. So that uncertainty creeps into the macro level. So they got uncertainty up here because they're so focused on the action. So the way to stay in alignment is to make sure at the global level, you're literally like, I'm going to hit this target because I'm not going to stop until I do. Like, boom, that's a line frame.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, I think for me, like I always kind of operate, especially the more I grow, the more I kind of operate this way. It's like, every quarter I'm like, okay, what are a couple rocks that we're going to, basically do everything we can to achieve those rocks, and nothing else matters. That's really macro level. And then all the little like mundane stuff from a micro level, in order, like, what are the resources, what are the to-dos we need to accomplish in order to achieve those rocks? We can figure that out along the way. And that's not a big deal, but the goal is we accomplish a couple big rocks each quarter, that move the needle down the field, right? There's a lot of like day-to-day stuff that don't move the needle. Busy work, responding to emails, all that stuff, that doesn't move the needle for me. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think about this all the time. Growing up in elementary school, the teachers always ask you like, oh, write down your 5-year goal and your 10-year goal, right? And, people ask me that sometimes, like, hey, where do you want to be in 10 years from now? But like, outside of our real estate deals that we know we're going to hold for 10 years, I'm like, dude, I'm not even thinking more than 12 months out, because like what I think I want 5 years from now is going to be different when I get there. And if it's not different, that means that I'm not growing. So like, if you would ask me 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I was an air traffic controller. I didn't own any investment real estate. So if you would ask me 5 years ago what I wanted, or if I thought I'd be here, like I'd have thought it was crazy. But also, if I had a 5-year goal back then and I was like, I'm just going to stick to this thing, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, because I wouldn't have been open to the growth, and I wouldn't have been open to those opportunities because I would have been blinded by them. Now, curious to hear your thoughts on all that.
Life is different now, right? Right. I'm a little older than you, like in the 90s, you could like bury that personal growth and just throw it away. Right. Now, personal growth is no longer optional, right? Your personal growth path and your business success path are wrapped together. So we're growing at such an accelerated rate right now. And an interesting perspective I get to see is how fast I can get clients through things to a place of alignment. And when I first started these concepts, like in 2014, it took 6 months for some clients to get it. Now I can basically get any client there in 5 minutes. Not because I'm sure my skill is more better, but everyone's operating at a higher frequency. The reason we can't see 3-5 years ahead is because it's a higher frequency than right now. We can't see it beyond that, right? So and life is really growing to the point where we're just kind of being present and taking action. That's kind of like the evolution. We try to control the future, but the less we control and the more we're open to life, the more magic happens. But most people can't handle that unknown without being terrified, because everybody likes certainty, right? So if you can, like Tony Robbins says, like if you can, the amount of certainty you can tolerate is directly proportional to how much happiness you'll have in your life. So creating that certainty and like really diving into your path. And right now, if you were supposed to have a 5-year vision, you may have a 5-year vision in 3 months, 6 months, but you are still in the ideation phase and the next frequency of the next evolution. So you're only getting bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to create it now, you're creating it based on your mindset, which is past reference, and that's not your full potential.
Yeah. And another reason I like the shorter timeline targets, like a quarter or even like 30 days, is because the feedback loop is much quicker. When we have a 10-year target, we use EOS here as an operating system, and we do like level 10 meetings, but like, they talk about come up with your 10-year vision. And it's like, yeah, we have something just to check the box, but it's like, am I really in line with that? I'm like, no, I'm not, because it's so far away. And the feedback loop is not there. And the target's going to change as we get closer to the 10 years. But the feedback loop is very important to me. So that's why I like these short frame, timeline targets. It's like they're quick wins, and each quick win builds confidence. I feel very like just calm energy right now, just talking with you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I feel it too.
Yeah. Very free flowing and I'm very excited too, just for like, I don't know, man. When I think about, where I was 5 years ago and then I think about, where I'm going, like you said, it's like, it's the unknown. I don't know, but I'm very excited for it. Like I'm very excited for the unknown.
Yeah, it's an exciting place to be, and it's going to be fun to watch where you go.
Yeah. For the folks out there that maybe, want to get out of their day jobs and they want to get into this next thing, whatever it's going to be, but they haven't found their passion yet. Cause that was me for a while. Like I thought I had found my passion. I thought I was going to be an air traffic controller the rest of my career. And then I discovered real estate investing and I was like, whoa, like this is my jam. And now I'm like in business and entrepreneurship, I'm like, this is what I was born to do. But I never realized it because I was never introduced to this. So for the folks out there that maybe they're stuck or they're in a place to where they're like, this is not their thing. They don't feel like they're growing and they're looking for whatever that next thing is, the vehicle that's going to get them into their passion, something that they're going to be excited to get out of bed every day to go build. What would you say is the best way for those folks to kind of get clear on what that next thing is?
I would say, and what I've learned is I didn't find my passion until I was 38 years old. Like I had a Tony Robbins coach, and one day he asked me, have you ever thought about becoming a coach? And it was like I got struck by lightning that day. And it was the first time in my life when I was excited to do something, like really in a career. And I used to always think, oh, I want to make a lot of money so I don't work, so I don't have to work.
Yeah.
And anybody who says that hasn't found the work they're supposed to do yet.
Say that again.
Anybody who says they want to retire so they can stop working hasn't found the work they're supposed to do yet.
That's so good.
Right. And what I would say, because I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
It made me nuts. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't have a successful business for 15 years later, but the first step is getting in the game. That's the first step. So if you have a job and you want to have a side hustle and you don't know what it is, the first step is deciding I am going to figure out what it is, no matter what it takes. And the level one, the first entrepreneur milestone is earning your first dollar. It's like throwing noodles on the wall, like we'll see what sticks. You can try real estate investing. You can try your own, maybe what you do for your own company, for yourself, what's in your ecosystem, but usually there's opportunities there if you're open, right? My first company was making race car driver cooling suits.
Whoa.
Like, because we found a niche. Now, we didn't make a lot of money, but it was a great experience. But that was what started my journey, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get to the second phase of an entrepreneur, which is replacing your day job, then it's really about complete total ownership and going all in. You got to buckle down to get it done, right? To get across that line. Phase three, where you're replacing yourself in the business, that's a complete inverse. And that's where 90% of entrepreneurs never make that shift. Because phase two is control freak, manage everything. Phase three is let go of everything. It's a polar opposite.
Yeah. I got a question for you. So, I think one of the reasons I've seen some success relatively quickly is because, unlike most people, I decided to go all in, right? So I cashed out the 401k. There was no backup plan. Once I cashed that out, I'm like, I got to make this work, right? And then I left this, FAA career where there was a pension and job security. I walked away from that to go do this. And I'm like, I got to make this work. And I went all in and, I operate every day. And today, like, there's no backup plan. Like, I'm all in on everything that we do. And I think when there's no backup plan, you burn the boats. You accomplish things that, you never thought that you could accomplish. And so I'm a big believer in that. But when do you think the right time is for the folks out there that maybe are interested in getting their feet wet? Because a lot of folks, let's be honest, they want to get their feet wet, but they don't want to jump in the water. And when you dabble, life rewards those who go all in. So how do you determine when the right time is to go all in mindset wise on that new thing?
Was yesterday.
Ooh, that's so good.
Because now let's also note that your key to success wasn't cashing in your 401k. Your key to your success was the mindset and the decision framework you were operating in. What you did after that was you liquidated the 401k. So the thing to understand is that the mindset of success is basically, I am going to find a way to hit this target because I'm not going to stop until I do. Like, that's a repeat after me I use with clients. So you can try that out loud. You can say, I take full ownership of my life and everything in it. I'm going to find a way to hit this target because I'm not going to stop until I do. And that puts you in a complete total state of certainty and alignment. And now you're in a place where stuff happens. So whether it would be impossible for you to leave your day job right now. It doesn't matter. You can still start the frequency of it. But yes, I'm going to find a business. Yes, I'm going to figure out what it was. Yes, I'm going to work for myself. Yes, I'm going to create freedom of time and money, because that's what we all want. Freedom. That's what we're after. But start now by choosing to walk that path. You don't even have to start taking action yet, but put your mindset in the result. It's going to happen. We just need to the process of life, and it's going to happen.
Yeah. I really like that. Another thing you said earlier in this conversation, which is interesting, kind of resonates with me. You said for the folks out there that want to retire so they can, do nothing, are the folks that haven't found their true passion. And that resonates with me because, I think with bigger pockets and a lot of these real estate investors out there, they say, hey, get into real estate investing. It's all about the passive income. You can quit your job and just go sit on the beach. And initially, I was kind of sold on that when I got into real estate investing. And I did reach a point to where I had that financial freedom and I traveled a little bit, but I quickly got bored. And now, like I'm so excited to come in here every single day and build this thing. And it just gets me excited. Like that makes me a lot happier than just sitting on the beach doing nothing.
Well, of course, right? Like you found the work you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Like if I didn't want to have a team and all this payroll and all this expenses that we're doing, I could just go sit on the beach and live off of the cash flow that's produced from a lot of the real estate. Now we have a lot of payroll and a lot of expenses, and I'm in here grinding and building it with the team, right? And it's a choice for me to do that, but that's how I know I'm doing it, because I truly want it, right? You see folks like Conor McGregor, for example. When he comes back to fight, this guy's worth a lot of money. His whiskey brand, what's the name of it? Proper 12. That thing sold for like 600 million. And so this guy's worth a lot of money now. So when he comes back to fight, he's going to come back and fight this summer and against Michael Chandler in July. But it's like Connor's fighting because he truly loves the game, And so same thing here. Like I'm in here building because I truly love the game. And for me, I don't know if there's ever going to be like an end game or a target. Like I think the point is to keep playing the game. You know what I mean? That's what makes me happy.
It is. We're here for the game, right? And when you find that work you're supposed to do, like you love to do it, and that's where the magic starts to happen.
Yeah, all about the magic. What's maybe like a key shift or like takeaway that you work with a lot of clients that really helps them get clear on whatever that next step is in their personal journey?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we teach is that number one, hard work doesn't create success. Alignment with success creates success. Because what often happens sometimes when we don't know what to do in business, we just end up working, right? And if you were lost in your car, you wouldn't just keep driving, right? You'd stop and get your bearing, right? So number one, alignment with success creates success. And number two is that your mindset creates your reality, and you need to learn how to change it. The sooner you learn how to change your mindset, the faster you'll be able to create alignment. And that's kind of like the foundation of this, because what we're really teaching people is a new mode of operation. Because I grew up, you grew up in reality where it was basically pick a target, work hard, repeat. That's the goal. We're teaching people the new model, which is pick a target, align with the target, flow to the target.
What do you mean when you say flow to the target?
Flow to the target, like grinding or flow. Like most people think of coaching, think of accountability, right? I do not do accountability coaching, because accountability is basically somebody saying, Jason, I'm going to hire you to force me to do something I don't want to do.
Like a personal trainer at the gym.
Like a personal trainer, yeah. So you only need accountability when you're out of alignment.
Mm.
And now that we are operating at this high frequency, it's very easy to change your reality and your thoughts. You just need to learn how you can shift into states of flow where you're aligned with life and just let it flow through you.
Yes, that's really good. A good example of that is like, I recently stopped drinking, and I hear a lot of other people when they stop drinking, they're like, they need this accountability group and all this stuff to force them not to drink. But I'm like, for me, it's been really easy. Like I haven't had one urge to drink because I'm so in alignment with it. You know what I mean? Like I don't need any accountability. Like I'm good on that. It's been a really easy switch for me. I've never like took a break from drinking my whole life, but I'm so in alignment with this new life that I don't need any accountability.
That's fantastic. Well, and the average person who may be struggling with addiction, like the solution to the addiction is in the discomfort. So when you're like, if you drink a lot and you want to stop, When you stop drinking, there's an emotion that's coming up, right? And a lot of times we're drinking to control or change our state, right? The solution and how I stopped drinking and needing things like that is that I fixed all the things that I was trying to numb, but
Yeah.
I did the work.
Yeah. I always say, like, as an entrepreneur or business owner, you got to go through certain seasons where you sacrifice certain things. And that's one of the seasons for me. But one thing I'm quickly realizing is like what I'm sacrificing with the alcohol is not really a sacrifice at the end of the day. That's the fucking crazy part,
No.
I've heard you say before that like whenever you do something new, it either is going to feel light or it's going to feel heavy. Can you expand on how you know if something feels light or heavy?
Well, feeling of light and heavy is like alignment, right? And what I've discovered is that with the big tool that I'm using is teaching people how to align themselves, their mindset and thoughts with what they actually want, what they really want, and removing the contradictions to that. Okay. And that process is what I showed you earlier, called frame shifting, is kind of the basis of that. And when we shift frequencies, like if you go to a higher frequency, you'll feel calm, more confidence, less doubt, lighter, more positive emotions. If you go to a lower frequency, you'll feel doubt, heaviness. Like a good example of a reverse frame shift is you're driving in the car, you hear a song from 20 years ago and you remember something you did and you feel bad about yourself. That puts you in a lower frequency,
Yeah.
right? So higher feeling light in your body is one of the best indicators of we're pointed in the right direction.
Mm. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I always think about that whenever I do something new or I'm like, hanging out with like a new person. I'm like, does this feel light or does it feel heavy? And, same thing with these new targets. Like we're talking about the no drinking thing. Like that feels really light to me.
Nice.
It feels great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jason, I appreciate you coming on, man. I got to say, like, I feel super calm and clear. Just talking to the energy, the vibe has been really good. So I'm feeling really high right now, just really, really high on life and very clear with everything, very calm. And so thank you for that. Where can the folks get in touch with you, man?
You guys can go to gamechangingmindset.com. We'll get you to my site and my things. That's the easiest way to get me. You can follow me on Instagram or YouTube. My podcast also is full of coaching sessions too. So if you want to start listening to some coaching, it's pretty much me coaching all entrepreneurs.
I love that. And Instagram is at the Jason Drees.
The Jason Drees, yeah.
I love that. And we got to get you on my boutique hotel mastermind call. We do it I'll bring a guest speaker on usually on Tuesday. So we'd love to have you on, man.
Okay, awesome. I'd love to.
Okay. He's Jason Drees. I'm Rich Summers. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.